Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. If everyone could please mute. You're welcome to have your screen on or off. We will be utilizing breakout rooms a little bit later. So this will be a little different than our past, a little bit different than our past webinars. So just so everyone knows right up front as we're all getting here. But I will give it just another minute or two and to let more people log in, and then we'll get started. All right, while I get this fixed, so we have several people in the waiting room. It looks like we were authorized for 100 and we had about 250 people log in, well, sign up for today. So I am working to get that rectified really quickly. And while we do that, you know, we always start with our guiding principle at the beginning of the program. So I am going to go ahead and introduce our speaker for that for today. We can go ahead and do our announcements a little bit later. But I will just go ahead and turn it over to Lindsay Barber today. So Lindsay has been a certified public accountant for the past 7 years with experience in public accounting as an entrepreneur and as a business professor. She has a passion for breaking down difficult topics and communicating in practical and effective ways. She works with business owners and entrepreneurs to create and analyze financials for strategic planning, and she also specializes in the application of the Enneagram personality typing system in the workplace as it relates to leadership development and team building. She is participating in a continuous training program through the Narrative Enneagram centered around a sophisticated inquiry method. She engages in the community in the arenas of social and racial justice, serving on the board of the nonprofit #Racism Stinks, volunteering for the John Hope Franklin Center for Reconciliation, and in organizing via the group Communify Tulsa. She is the proud parent of 2 boys and is actively engaged with the Tulsa Public Schools. So thank you, Lindsay, and I am going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. So in trying to choose just one guiding principle, it was pretty difficult to do, but I went ahead and chose respect, which falls under the umbrella of responsibility to self and to others. So on the website, it says, we respect other members and the process by exhibiting listening skills and actively listening to discussions, being open to other points of view and outcomes. And so as I was reflecting on this, I think especially today, in today's day and age, with the polarization that we're all dealing with, people's passion sometimes for their truth it's easy to let that outweigh our value of other human beings and our respect for other human beings. And so I'm going to start with a quote. The first step in the evolution of ethics is a sense of solidarity with other human beings. And this was by Albert Schweitzer, a theologian, organist, writer, humanitarian. And he won the 1952 Nobel Peace Prize for his work on reverence for life. And so I started asking myself, how am I revering my life, first of all, before I can actually then revere the life of other people? So responsibility to self and others, and how those two things are inextricably linked. I have to trust myself and know myself before I can respect and trust other people. And so for me, I have to go back to the fact that we exist at all, in kind of a place of gratitude for that, and then to also recognize the interconnectedness of each of us to one another and to nature. So grounded in those ideas, I can listen, truly listen to the viewpoints of others. And so as I've examined my own life, I've realized that the ideologies, belief systems that I've kind of clung to personally were often the very truths that were then challenged as I engaged in relationships with others, because I was face to face with their experiences that were different than mine. And that began to change me. It changes us, I think, for the better if we're open to it as we engage in relationships with others. So we have to do self-work in order to respect other people. So I found in my life that there are two things that I really need to pay attention to. First of all, when I feel defensive, that's a really good indicator that there's some self-work that needs to be done. My defenses are telling me that I am valuing my own belief systems and my own truth higher than that of the respect and the relationship with that other person. And so, maybe I'm in the right in what I'm thinking, but my respect and my value of that other person need to come before my need to be right. And then also, whenever I find myself justifying my own actions, my own belief systems, then that's another key indicator that some self-work is needed. And so for me, that self-work is often wrapped up in some mindfulness, meditation, a walk in nature, and also connecting with other people in vulnerability. So the more that I connect to my own true self, the more that I can then value and respect other people. And so that's what came to mind as I was looking at that guiding principle.
All right. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Appreciate it. I also appreciate everyone's patience with us today, as this is the first time, again, that we've done a meeting style format. So I am still admitting more participants. So we've upgraded our meeting, so we have more room and plenty of room for everyone. So if you have anyone texting you or emailing you and saying they can't get in, please let them know that they are able to log in at this point. So I am just going to continue to admit all of our guests. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I see some people engaging in the chat, and that is great as well. I will just continue to move forward. So I know that everyone's really excited about today's presentation. So I will just continue. We can do our announcements at the end as we're still admitting people. I don't want to wait too long to have everyone in. The only thing that I would like to do right here at the beginning is to talk about those of you who would like CPE credits. So I know we have a Google Doc sign up form. You are also welcome to sign up for your CPE credit, your CPE certificate within the chat. So if you would like that, please put your name and CPE. You may also, I will put in the chat the link to our Google form that will help you sign up for that as well. And just signing up doesn't guarantee that you will receive one. We also have to be able to verify that you are on the program and that you have been participating. So if you are planning to get one, please, even if you signed up on the Google Drive form, just say hello or type your name here at the beginning. So that will help us to know that you were here, and we'll have you all do the same thing at the end just to verify that you were able to be on for the entire program. So again, I would like to go ahead and get started. I see all those coming through in the chat. Go ahead and get started with our presenters for today. I know we're all really excited to learn more about how to have better conversations in our workplace and ways that we can just use those to help our community right now. So our speakers for today are Carrie Watkins and Hassan Gyasi of the Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum. And Carrie became the Oklahoma City Memorial and Museum's first staff member as the communications director in March of 1996. She was named executive director in 1999, and today she oversees the operations of the Memorial and Museum, which is one of Oklahoma's most visited sites, and is race director for the Memorial Marathon, which I know, and she may mention, is virtual this year, this October. I am sad, it runs through my neighborhood, and I do love to come out and support every year. We also have Hassan Gyasi. He is the lead facilitator for Better Conversations Project at the Memorial and Museum. As the founder of Aristotle's Cafe, he has worked for over a decade to design a format that brings people together to have discussions that matter. He's made a major impact with over 300 facilitators trained globally, over 1,000 facilitated discussions in person and virtually, and he's even had the chance to sit down with over 10,000 people to talk about some of life's most important subjects. So I know that we can learn a lot from their expertise, and I'm really looking forward to it. So Carrie, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Bailey, and thanks to all of you for having us. I'm just going to basically set up Hassan and let him take it away, but I'll tell you a little bit about how we got to Better Conversations, and that is as we began looking for the 25th anniversary, which is 2020, before all hell broke loose, we wanted to look for something that brought people together. And we wanted to make sure that although we're virtual today and the marathon's virtual, our life has gone virtual for the next foreseeable future, this was meant to be face-to-face, sitting across the table, looking people eye to eye, putting the phones down, and really beginning to work through tough conversations. And one of my inspirations for this was I'm raising 2 teenagers, and I have really wise parents, really wise in-laws. They're around wise older people. But I saw this incredible change in generations. And the kids thought they're always right, and my parents who are 80 think they're always right. And we were kind of caught in the middle as parents. And how could we bridge this gap and begin to make these people sit down and have better conversations? And for us, it involved us as parents kind of bridging that gap. And I use this even Monday on a plane where somebody, we were carrying something thunder as we got off the plane Sunday, I guess, and someone bashed them for not standing during the national anthem. And I said, people just see it a different way. We just got to sit down and continue to have conversations. And the guy began to have this great discussion with me about, was it right or wrong? But I love that we just had a nice dialogue, a civil dialogue. As we began looking at this, and Lynn Porter, who's our director of educational outreach, is on this call as well, we began to look at who does this really well. And a lot of people did smaller things, or they did media podcasts. And so we kind of based it after Krista Tippett's podcast that many of you may have heard. And she was here in February to kick this off for us, just ahead of COVID, the new world of COVID. And so Bank of America is our sponsor. They've underwritten this for the year. It allowed us to go get someone of Hassan's quality who's done this around the world. And it allowed us to really focus one person on bringing people together, of having better conversations. Of the 250 who are on this call today, we might have 200 different opinions, or maybe 250 different opinions. But that's okay. How do we come together and have a conversation where I honor your opinion and you honor mine, even though we may be polar opposites or have different opinions? And so as we march up to the election in November and we begin to look at different things around the world, or even in our offices, or even our families, how is it that we can begin to listen and hear what others have to say, and maybe learn something, or maybe push ourselves to be better at what we say and what comes out of our mouth? And in a world that's full of negativity, and you can write something in a few characters and send it around the world, how can we look face to face, eye to eye, and say, I'm going to listen to what you have to say, and I'm going to honor you with how I say it? So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Hassan, who will begin the Better Conversations for today.
Carrie, thank you so much. And it's wonderful to be here, and we have some things to get into, and I want to make sure we have time to do that. And I feel like everyone here has a pretty good background, and also if you are joining this, I feel like you're part of a group that is also invested and interested in this. I want to talk a little bit about, what we think of as our grounding virtues here that have been informed by that initial foundational work with Krista Tippett and On Being. And so I'm just going to put them in the chat for right now if you want to have a look. And I'm just going to explain, kind of a few of them, just to highlight some of our meaning behind this, because, Bailey kind of let me know that you guys have your own. And so to share these to give it some grounding, I'd like to. So words that matter, which is the first one, is really that words shape how we understand, and that it's important for us in how we interpret the world, and that we should actually reach for words that almost shimmer a little bit. And what I mean by that is that, you know, kind of reaching for those words that might not be in our normal vocabulary. Instead of saying happy, you might say euphoric, for example. Reaching and finding, you know, nice, joyful words that express things. The second is hospitality. As Carrie said, sitting down, no matter where you're coming from or what's going on, you know, being hospitable to people and starting things from kindness, comfort, and safety, and letting those other reactions arise out of that, but creating a kind of mode and a mindset to have those conversations in a nice way. Also, humility. Being curious, surprised at new things. You know, I always like to think of children, that their curious nature, walking down the street and seeing things for the first time with fresh eyes, fresh ears, and not being stuck in our ways, but being interested and excited about what's around the corner. Patience is not only understanding that, you know, things do take time, but understanding that human transformation also takes time, and being patient with those people in our lives that might be needing that time to lean into things that are a little difficult. Generous listening. If you've ever sat with someone and they have given you the gift of full attention, then you'll know what that means from your own perspective. And the fact that we can create these moments and give this gift, and it's something that I talk about in the trainings that we've been doing, even if it's just for 30 seconds, it's just such a pleasure to allow someone to be listened to, and not all of us get the chance to have that every day, and just taking that small moment to do that. And so generous listening is also something that we really believe in. Adventurous civility is the last one, and it is much more than just being polite or nice. And as Carrie said, with elections coming up, we'll all have to think of this and hold this true. It doesn't celebrate diversity by putting it on a pedestal and ignoring the messiness and its depths. Actually, it answers the intimate and important questions that divide us and that aren't going to be found so quickly. The answers aren't found easily. And so the adventure of diving into that together with others and really exploring that process. And so I'm going to stop sharing this screen, because actually now is kind of the moment that it's time for us to interact in this. And so now that you kind of have a quick understanding of what it means to have a better conversation and some of our grounding virtues, I would really love it. We have over 100 people on this call, and I want us to break out, and this will be a short glimpse of what a better conversation is. And so I really would love to get a few people that might want to ask questions more than give answers. And so if you can, just as fast as you can, we're probably going to take the first 14 or 15 people. If you want to write in the chat, yes, just the word yes, if you're okay to play that role of a quick and easy facilitator, meaning you're going to go to this room, we're going to give you a question, and you're just going to ask that question to the group that you're put with. Just go ahead and type yes in the chat if you're all right with that and willing to do so. Okay, we have one. All right, and we're going to stop this at about 14 or 15. So if you can, just go ahead and volunteer. This will be painless, I promise, and easy. You're going to get a nice and easy prompt to ask. And the only thing that you're going to really have to do is ask questions. Try to make sure everyone in the room is able to answer and given space to answer. And it's just going to go on for about 15 minutes. So it's not a very long session that we're going to do. So don't be too shy. I did this with a group of 15-year-olds, and I'll tell you what, there was so many yeses that I couldn't help myself. We actually had to cap it. So if you can, just go ahead and write yes in the chat bar. I think there's a few others still that we're waiting for. Okay, so we have maybe about 4 or 5 others. If people want to volunteer, that would be wonderful. Remember, you're just going to ask a question. And what I'll do as well, just to make sure that you know that it's not too scary, this is the question that you're going to be asking. The question that is going to be asked in all these groups, and the one that you're going to help people explore a little bit, is what does a better conversation mean to you? and what benefits would that bring to your organization? So again, it's not too scary, not too controversial, just a good conversation to have about how to use this type of process and how to talk to people and get new ideas.
Let me just say, Hassan, real quick, that one of the reasons this worked so well for us is in 1995, after the bombing, we brought people together around the tables to work through what the memorial would look like. Not the design, but what would the feelings we want people to understand. And we brought people together who'd lost loved ones, rescue workers, survivors. I mean, we did this 25 years ago, and it worked. And this was before the technology that we're on today enjoying. But I watched and was sat a part of many of those meetings that were intense, where survivors felt guilty from family members and community people had input, and it really did work. People of all socioeconomic levels, all races, all backgrounds, and that was really one of our inspirations. So that's why I would say we come back and really share this even 25 years later in a way that we can do it even better.
Yeah, thanks for that context, Carrie. And so I think we do have wonderful. Thank you guys so much. We do have enough volunteers. You guys are all amazing. And we have kind of, Bailey is working the magic right now, trying to sort and make sure that everyone is having one person in each room to be a facilitator. And so what will happen is that in a bit, you'll kind of be asked and prompted to move into those rooms. Another piece as well that I just want to let everyone know about, if you'd like to be in a session that I will be facilitating, there is one tomorrow that's happening 1 to 2 p.m. And also as part of this process, we are creating an online course that you can go through that's free for everyone, that will take you through the steps of what it means to be a good facilitator of these sessions. And also you have the skills to really get involved with it, and you can ask questions along the way. And so my real goal and my focus for this is to nurture and help support you in that journey and having those conversations. And I'm just going to ask Bailey if we are
getting close.
Okay, we're getting close. Perfect. I also want to talk a little bit about the ethical lens of this approach and why it can be very useful. A lot of times we think of this as a difficulty that we have. It's important to create solutions within communities, and this is a spark and a process to create that and to start with that. And so when I think of better conversations, I use them for a number of different things, but one of them definitely is brainstorming around solutions, as Carrie said, when you have a diverse group of people, and making sure that you hear what they have to say before you start to think about any solutions to the problems that they might have. So a lot of times we see that there's a lot of good that people try to do, and without doing this first sourcing, sometimes it's a little bit off the mark. And so please feel free to ask questions after this process is done on that, and we'll have a little bit of time for that as well.
All right, I think we are ready. I believe we have at least one person in each room who has agreed to be our facilitator. So if you do not, I hope someone will just quickly volunteer to ask our question that Hassan has presented, but I do believe that we are covered. So thank you all for volunteering. All right, Hassan, are you ready for me to send people to rooms?
Yeah, let's get started. And no fighting, biting, kicking, or screaming, okay? Just ask the question and then we'll come back in after it's done.
All right, thank you.
All right. Bailey, do you want to make me host real quick so I can just check and kind of jump around on this?
Sounds
Okay,
good.
perfect.
There you go.
Okay, great. Okay, Bailey, I'm going to hand it back over to you. And then if you could just call us back at 1:15, if that's okay.
Yes.
Is that all right? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
12:15 our time.
Yes, 12:15. Yeah.
Yes.
And I will actually go into the room that you assigned me to.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Okay, if you haven't yet joined your room, you should have an invitation to do so.
But also I've been going through an implementation at work, and it's interesting the different groups. You think you're talking about the same thing, you're on the same page, but then when you come to going live, you might not have been. So, you know, I just think we all have ways to improve, you know, on conversations. So.
Thank you. All right. How about Hawk? Did I say that right?
Hawk, yeah. Actually, like, I agree with that. I also like really agree with what Jeremy was saying too, just because I'm an introvert too. But just letting people finish a conversation
Hey, Bailey,
Yes.
on group 3, there's not a facilitator and there's a lot of noise. I don't think.
Okay.
Is there a certain question you're asking, or me just ask any question? I'm happy to go back there, but
Yeah, if you would, our question is, I believe it's what does a better conversation mean to you, and what benefits would that bring to your organization?
okay.
Thanks, Carrie.
I think you need to put me back in there, maybe.
Okay, let me see. You're in 3?
Yep.
Oh, it won't let me move you. It just says not joined.
I joined and I came back out to ask you.
Okay. Here, I can move you to something else and then move you back in there, I think. Let me see. Yeah, it's not going to.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was dialed in because I couldn't do the video, but now I'm on a tablet that I can do the video.
Okay.
And when they put us in the rooms, the person said that all of our mics were muted. And so the facilitator kept asking people to talk and no one could talk because all of our mics are muted.
You should be able to unmute yourself in your.
I did, but I'm saying the entire group, no one could talk to him. So it wasn't just singularly me.
Okay. Well,
So
everyone should have that same capability. I'm trying to figure out.
We had the same experience in our group. I thought it was like a joke because no one would answer. I thought, oh, this is a joke on how conversations aren't great. So I actually left the room.
So who is this?
That's what happened to me, which is why I got out of it.
Yeah.
Well,
So who's this talking?
No, it's Dayton. Sorry.
Dayton, I could hear you the entire time, and but the problem is that just as we entered, the automated voice said all of your mics are muted, and even though we would unmute ours, we couldn't say anything.
huh.
Okay. I thought you were messing with me. I'm glad to know that now.
Well, that's strange. Well, how about, since there's still some of us in this main group, how about we kind of do our own discussion here? I can see that a lot of you are still muted. But we could, it's a little larger group, but I think we could still have a pretty good conversation. How does that sound? Thumbs up? Good.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, I guess I will just serve as a facilitator here and say, open it up to the floor with, what does a better conversation mean to you, and what benefits would that bring your organization? Does anyone want to start? You could always also raise your hand. I think I can see that.
I think it shows kindness, and kindness can win over people even when they have a different opinion.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. Anyone else?
One of the comments that they made in another group, and I really agree with this, is that I think one of the keys for great conversations is the listening, the really attentive listening. And it does seem like today everyone wants to share their view, and that's what ends up stopping the conversation, right? The listening. So for me, a great conversation is when you've really got that great listening.
Really good. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? I know it's kind of awkward when we're online. Right. Well, what benefits would having those conversations bring to your organization? Does anyone see? Is there a way that you think that could be impactful?
Well, I think so. I'll speak up one more time, then I'll start listening. But I think if everyone felt comfortable and there was no fear to speak up and share ideas, and we'd have conversations about things that maybe are sensitive or we might disagree about, I mean, that's bound to open up doors to lots of other opportunities to get better. So for me, limitless ways that we could benefit from better conversations. So.
Yeah.
It also inspires people who maybe are introverted or don't feel comfortable presenting their opinion, because when others speak and they're listened to, it might inspire them to then have a private conversation later.
That's a really great insight. Anyone else like to share? There are a few of you that I can see. So see, we've got more people joining us again. All right, I see a few new faces. We're still here in the main room, but we are still just having our discussion in here. So for those of you who have just joined us, would you like to answer, what does a better conversation mean to you? Maybe get some discussion started in here.
I can put in what we said. So we kind of talked about in our group that it really, I kind of started this off with talking about how it's active listening and empathy with the person that you're talking with, and how part of that active listening is that we're not just jumping straight into the solutions. We're kind of listening. We're not trying to jump ahead in the conversations. And then really making sure that, you know, as conversations are, it takes two people to party, as I would say, but getting what you need out of it, not just what the other person in the conversation needs. So those are kind of some of the things we thought as a group that it really made better conversations.
That's great. Would anyone else like to share what their group talked about as people are coming back in? We've still got about 5 more minutes.
We were not sure when to come back.
Okay, well, that's totally fine. Yes, we've got 5 minutes left, and
Okay.
And so we've got just a few minutes. But Paula, would you like to share? We are kind of making a makeshift group here in our main room, since we've still got some people in here. Would you like to share anything that your group talked about?
Yes. Oh, we had such a great group, by the way. And I really enjoyed listening to all their different perspectives. And one of the really interesting things is there was one person who talked about how a better conversation was less stressful and it didn't feel confrontational to them, right? And then another person was talking about, wow, it's really great to be able to hear and present different viewpoints and be challenged. And they talked about what respect meant and active listening, two-way discussions. And then since we were pretty efficient, I took the advantage to then ask the whole team to say, well, you know, we have one team member who talks about no confrontation and no stress, and another team member who really wants to be challenged. And how do we reconcile that and still show respect? And really had a great discussion with what that looks like. And basically the bottom line on that was the whole trust. and being respectful in speech, right? And so if it's a team where some trust has been built, even if it's a new team, and people are showing that they're really hearing what the other person says, then that person feels valued and can be challenged, right? Because then they're open because they feel valued.
Great. Sounds like you all had a wonderful discussion.
We did, and then we all got to say where we worked, and I found out there was a brand new colleague from my work on the call. So
good.
Yeah, and there's 2 of us that want to take the training.
Good.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
Wonderful. All right, we've got about 1 minute here. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to share from their group, or just thoughts in general on what Paula had to say? Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks again for your, this is the first time we've used an interactive format like this. So thanks again for your patience and your willingness to participate in it.
Thanks. And they worked really well. The breakouts worked well.
Good. Good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring everyone back. So stay tuned. All right, people are rejoining. Thank you all.
All right. Bailey, did Carrie jump into a group as well? Do you know?
She did, and then came back, and then sorry, technical difficulty over here. Couldn't get her back in. So.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Okay.
No, I see her down there. She's here.
She's
here.
here.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. I think there might still be a few other people. As you come back in, I would invite you to go ahead and use that chat group there. And in the chat bar, I would love to ask each individual to speak up, but that's not going to happen with 120 people. So in the chat, if you just want to make sure that everyone are selected, and go ahead and just put down a word that might represent what that experience was like for you, or one word or a short sentence about how it was, how that process was for you, just in general as a participant. Enlightening, that's good. Encouraging, to hear all points. Inspiring, refreshing, wonderful, beneficial. Takeaway, need to listen more. Great. A good conversation happened. Awkward, was a little bit awkward. Novel and engaging. Fun, nice to talk to people. Surprisingly comfortable. Wonderful. Challenged because we're all muted. Okay. That is, we're doing our best to communicate, and that's perfect when you get out of those things. Out of the comfort zone, great. Not as awkward as expected to be. Wonderful. Now, what I want to do is that also keep typing those in. If you are someone that facilitated, if you are the person that only asked questions through this process, I want you to just put like a little star next to the sentence that you're going to put in, so we can grab them and see them. So put a little asterisk mark and go ahead and type in what your experience was like being a facilitator. So if you see my example, kind of put 2 asterisks and then kind of put what it's like to be a facilitator. And then we're going to see what it's like from that perspective, where you're just asking questions and just finding out from the group kind of their thoughts on things. All right, so being a connector, right? Like being a person that doesn't have pressure to necessarily have an agenda, and do that. We didn't have a facilitator. That's okay. You know, these things happen, and it seems like you guys made it through. Had an engaging group, so we interacted well. Wonderful. And okay. So all of this was an experiment, right? And great participating from the group, exciting, engaging, wonderful. And again, sorry about those technical issues. I jumped into a group, and in my group, we had 2 people that only could type to me, and then I spoke for them. And so we worked it out, and we kind of found a way. Many aspects of better conversations, personal and professional. Great. So, you know, part of this process is that better conversations is not only we lay out, and the memorial has done a wonderful job of taking time and for us to really build this out and lay out the foundations. But I think all of us know what a better conversation really means and what that is to us. And it's going to mean something slightly different to you and your community and how you want to apply it. And it's going to be challenging, and it might be awkward, and it might, you know, take a little while for things to warm up. And sometimes questions that are asked might not always lead to something that changes your whole entire life. But for me, in my experience, it's about those small changes and, you know, investing that time in doing it. I mean, and I think intention is a big part of that. And so what I would like to do is, as we kind of wrap things up here, I just want to give people the chance at the very end just to type a few questions in the chat if you have any certain questions on the approach, or, you know, some of the things that we talked about. We can't cover it all because it's a short time, but if you have any particular questions or want to write them in, or Bailey or anyone from the team. Okay, first question. That's always one that is a great one. How do you diffuse a conversation that grows tense? A big part of what we do, it's a longer explanation, but a big part of what we do at Better Conversations is we introduce the concept and we introduce the format, and including things like the facilitator can only ask questions, which we did here, no right or wrong answers, so we agree and disagree with respect, be here and present, and then also do your best to hold other views equally and respectfully as your own. And that we create these conversations not to come to one truth or one right answer, but to dive deeper and to understand the complexity of issues. And so even as I say this, you might already see that those tense situations kind of are able to be eased through a lot more. And normally when things grow tense, as a facilitator, I try to ask questions that bring people into a little bit more of a logical side and not emotional side. Also ask people to speak from experience of their own experience and not to reach for outside sources. And these are also at a glimpse and a 2-minute explanation are maybe a few things that we talk about. And again, there will be a longer hour-and-a-half training that's available online. Able to impact your organization. We found that leadership, with taking this as one of the tools inside of their array of skills, really allows the voices of their team to be heard in different ways. So starting this as a decision-making process and then opening it up for different solutions and action planning after that is a good spark for that. And also you'd be surprised when you give people the space, the solutions, really good solutions that they often find. Virtual environment, as you saw today, there are technical issues that happen sometimes. If it's a group that you want to have a deeper conversation with and it's a group of strangers, I would recommend keeping sizes to be about 7 or 8, and making sure that they understand the technology and prepping things that way. If you have a bigger group of people, there are some blended ways to have interaction as we're doing now. But I would say that to have a real better conversation, if it's a group that meets regularly, the size is not constrained, but just keep in mind there will be some lag and some other things that you have to do, maybe hand raising, which is something that we don't do in our physical sessions, in our physical meeting sessions. So I think there's just a few more, and I'll get to those best I can. people feeling safe all has to do with that introduction. And the facilitator, if you want to put that hat on for a second and play that role, be neutral and don't take sides. I think that's one very important key part amongst a few others, but that's instrumental. And polarizing topics and people that feel that they need to defend things passionately. I think, again, part of the thing that we do to ease up these conversations is the preparation beforehand, those initial agreements, and that people do come to the table to work through it and to dive into the complexity of it. And again, I can't do it justice with just this short time, but there are some techniques and some other things that we use as well. I want to make sure that I respect everyone's time, and so I don't want to go over. It's been wonderful to run a small demo session for everyone, and thank you for my volunteer facilitators. Please feel free to reach out and get in touch with us. We're running this programming, and it's available to you through the memorial. And with that, I will hand it back over to Bailey. So thank you guys very much.
Well, thank you, Hassan, and thank you, Carrie. I hope everybody got a better idea of what a better conversation looks like for them and within their workplaces. And your interest may have been piqued, so I do hope that you will check out more of their work at the memorial so that you can further your training there if you would like. Again, for those of you who are seeking CPEs, please do. Even these thank you messages are wonderful, but just a little something to let us know you're still here in the chat. That would be great. Any other feedback you have for us, please let us know. Again, I apologize for the couple of technical issues we had today. So thank you for your patience. As we switch to virtual, you have some issues that we haven't had before, but thank you all so much. Our next program is going to be on September 16th. That is our annual awards. So we will be presenting our Community Impact Awards, the Carmichael Leadership Award for Young Professionals, and the Executive Pilot Award. We will be doing that virtually. We will be back to our webinar style. We were trying something new today so that we could have those breakout rooms. Jill Castilla, we're really excited. She is the CEO of Citizens Bank of Edmond and has agreed to come talk with us about leadership through challenges. So we heard you when you talked about your the different topics that you wanted to see in our membership survey, and that was one that a lot of people really wanted to hear about. So speaking of that survey, we also learned that so many of you, your companies are not going back to in-person meetings just yet. So we are going to be doing renewing our memberships. As you all know, that happens in the fall, and we are creating a virtual only option for this year as well. So if that is something that you are looking at doing, we actually are just taking the cost of the lunch, the in-person lunch, out of our out of the cost of your membership. So you will be able to still receive the same recognition that you've received, have lots of people join, and hopefully more people join, because we are able to have even more people included with our memberships when we are online. So just so you know that that change is coming down the pipe as well, and you will be hearing more information about that soon. I see we have lots of comments in the chat. I don't think I have any other announcements for today. I hope that we see you again next month for our awards and to hear from Jill Castilla. And thank you again to Hassan and Carrie and to Lynn for helping to coordinate all of this. We appreciate each of you for being with us today, and hope that you all are ready to have some better conversations. So thank you all.
Thanks, Bailey.
Thanks.